Let go of my microphone. What is going?
She's a house guest who has overstayed her welcome.
Is her name on the lease?
Her name is not on the lease.
Living out of Wendy Bear's Irvine apartment for months, sleeping on her living room floor, refusing to leave.
I should leave. After all the things you've done to me.
But this isn't your apartment.
Did you ever think that it would be this hard to get rid of an unwanted house guest?
Oh, absolutely not. If I did, I never would have invited her in.
Back in February, Wendy says an old neighbor named Anne-Marie Lynch called her up and asked her if she could come stay with her for a few weeks when she moved back to California from Florida.
She told me that the people she was living with at the time were crazy and they were stealing her belongings and she was desperate for a place to go.
Wendy says the deal was for Anne-Marie to only stay a month. But when 4 weeks passed, she says she showed no signs of leaving. They feel like prisoners in their own home.
The kitchen, we don't even use it now. We just pick up food. I've been eating out of cans.
So we asked Anne-Marie to leave repeatedly.
She's offered to get you a hotel room.
Wendy and her boyfriend offered to get a moving truck and take...
Let me tell you about the man who wouldn't leave. The man who overstayed his welcome. So I knew this lady one time, and this woman had to sell her entire house just to get rid of a man. This is not a joke. This is not an exaggeration. She had to sell her house because he would not leave. So started off, they were dating. She let him stay over a couple of nights a week. And then it became 3 nights in a week, 4 nights a week. And then he was pretty much staying over there, keeping his toothbrush there. He had a drawer in her dresser. Eventually, he was there at her house more than he wasn't. And honestly, let's take a pause there, ladies. Let's take a pause there. Don't let a man be in your house.
Why is it that you become the enemy when you try to help somebody, but it don't work out? That's why I say never, ever, ever let someone come and stay in your house, because your house is going to become very hostile when you and them fall out. And this is ridiculous, especially when you're trying to help the person. The person had nowhere to go because they have no family, they have no friends. You wonder why? And so while they're in your house, you get up and you go to work. You get up and you go about your business. You get up and you're doing something constructive throughout the day. But this person laying on the couch, this person watching television, this person have their kids with them, not 1, but 2, and the kids have the television at top volume at 10, 11 o'clock at night. And you as the parent of these 2 kids don't have the common courtesy to go down and be like, yo, y'all need to turn that TV down. Y'all need to take your ass to bed, something. But when somebody in the household says something to your kids, you're offended. If you don't want anybody to say anything to your kids, move out. If you don't want anybody to say anything to your kids, discipline your child. Teach your kids respect for other people's time and space and their home. You have your kids messing up the entire place, but when you say something to them, the person want to get mad. I don't think that's fair. You're trying to help the person. You understand? My advice to you, don't help. It might sound cold, it may sound brutal, don't help. If you and that person are good friends prior to them moving, and you want them to remain friends, whether they're friends or family, don't move them into your house. If you can't give them somewhere else to go and stay, don't move them into your house, because you're going to become enemies. And you're going to be the bad guy for saying anything about them messing up your house. Or my favorite one with people like this is they get an attitude while they're in your house. You come in the door, they walk past you and don't say anything. They leave out the house, they don't say anything to you. Or they slam in the door. You're not paying any rent in here. You're not paying any mortgage in here. You're not paying any bills in here. The idea is for me to help you to get on your feet, but I'm not going to be in my household and be uncomfortable. But I want you guys to tell me, what do you do in a situation like this if you're trying to keep that person as a friend or, a family member? You don't want to, for it to fall apart. Would you continue to allow this to happen until they get on their feet, or would you put them out? Let me know, man.
Yes, what would you do when you have a friend or family or associate? As a courtesy, you have them come in to stay for 5 days, 6 days, 7 days. 3 months later, they're still there and they don't respect you and your family and they don't even move out.
What is it going to take to get rid of this? You can't get rid of me. I'm not going nowhere.
This is more common than you think. Across America, good people, nice people are letting their friends and family and associates stay in their house for a few days. And months later, they find out that they are your enemy. They are pressure to your house. They are emotionally affecting your living with your kids, with your parents, and financially draining you. And you have to deal with this now, legally and emotionally. But
what should you do if you invite your friend to sleep on your couch and he refuses to leave? Before agreeing to let someone stay with you for any length of time, make sure you understand your state's landlord-tenant laws. If you accept money from a guest or allow them to receive mail at your address, they may receive the same protection as a tenant. Removing someone at that point would require a formal eviction and court order.
Many good people, good household people, good family people have done good things, allowed family and friends, and learned the hard way.
Never again. Never again, I tell you that.
Yes, lessons learned the hard way. This is way common than one talks about. Obviously, who's going to talk about it? If I have an issue with my brother who stays with me and doesn't move out and uses all my food and free lodging, who am I going to tell? I'm not going to tell my other brothers or other families. So this is very common. A lot of people don't talk about it because it is emotionally draining. It's an issue with their relationships because of financial, legal, emotional relationships. Everybody wants to keep it confidential. This is personal and it hurts them deep down. I know a few people who got hurt this way and they never talked about it, but they keep it inside and emotionally they are drained by going through what they went through. And the funny thing is, this does not just happen in homes. It also happens in businesses, in a hotel or a motel. If somebody stays there, and of course all this depends on your state and your county rules and regulations and laws. If in a hotel or motel, if somebody stays there for 30 days paying on a daily basis, in some states and counties, they become legal tenants. So now they have legal rights, tenant rights, and if they don't pay, you cannot just kick them out. You cannot just call the cops because they cannot do anything. They are legal tenants. Your insurance does not apply to them. And if they don't pay or create hassles, you will have to evict them like a regular tenant. So laws are different in every state, but this is a bigger problem than we think it is. In some states, when a friend or family who stays in your house for 14 days, did you know that they automatically become tenants in your house? Yes. So check with your state, check with your county. Some states it's 14, some it's 7, some it's 30 days. And once they become tenants, you cannot just kick them out. You cannot just call the cops. They have all the rights of a tenant. And if that tenant does anything or falls in the house and sues you, you're liable for it. And by the way, you have house insurance. And once this guest becomes a tenant, you don't have insurance for the tenant if something happens. So you are liable for any damages that he or she creates with the neighbors within the house, or if he or she gets injured. So this is a bigger problem than we think.
Can you legally kick someone out of your house? Number one, is there a lease? If they're on a lease, you just can't boot them out. Even if they haven't paid rent or cleaned the dish in months, they still have tenant rights. You will have to follow the eviction process to get them out legally. Number two, no lease, no problem. Not quite. If they're not on the lease, but they've still been living there a while, the law still might call them a tenant. That means no sneaking in there and packing their stuff up at midnight. You'll need to give proper notice, usually within 30 days. Number three, guests who overstayed their welcome. It's like that cousin who was supposed to only crash for a week, but he's been there 3 months. You can ask them to leave immediately. But if they refuse, you might have to call the cops for trespassing. Bottom line, you just can't throw people out like a movie. Remember, you'll hear them say.
So if you have been nice enough, or if you know somebody who have been nice enough and they're having issues with their friends or guests staying over and now they are legal tenants, you cannot just get rid of them. They will not move. Cops don't do anything. You have to get legal advice, legal help. But one thing's for sure, don't do this.
How to properly kick someone out of your house.
Again, we're here. Very quick, very effective.
Please don't do those things if a guest is now a tenant. Hire professional help. Hire an attorney in your local county, in your local state, who knows about tenants' rights, tenants' laws. Because when it comes to legal cases, generally speaking, tenants usually end up winning. So please have a great attorney. When you allow somebody in your house, a friend or family, a guest, a brother, a cousin, it starts as kindness, then silence, then stress, then regrets, and emotional and financial and physical stress. So if your guest stays there 14 days, 30 days, and let's say in your state they become tenants now, please seek legal advice to get rid of them. Because if they start getting mail or delivery packages at your house on a regular basis, they are legal tenants. Police cannot remove them because they will say, hey, they are legal tenants. You have to get an eviction attorney. Evictions in California, for example, takes up to 90 days. Different states takes different times, but in California, they're going to stay there for 90 days, and then it can take longer and longer if they dispute and get their own attorney. So be forewarned, this situation can get ugly, and it has gotten ugly in many, many situations. The law protects the tenants, even if you never meant to create one, to create a tenant relationships, but that's how the law works. If the guests start moving furniture into your garage, into your house, that's a red flag. They receive mails and packages. That's a red flag. They're not going to move out. They start helping you pay with utilities. That's a red flag. They change their driver's license or other bills to your address. Wow, now they're going to become tenants. So keep an eye out. Look out for these things when you have friends and family staying with you, because it can turn ugly.
What about someone staying at your home and they just won't leave? They're not on the lease. They don't pay rent. We need them gone. What do you do? So assuming you are here in Florida, we first need to determine whether, even though they're not formally a tenant because they don't pay you rent, they don't have a written lease agreement with you, we still need to determine whether the law considers them a tenant, because that's going to determine the process you need to go through in order to get them out. So the main thing we need to look at is, do they contribute anything financially, or do they pay any monetary amount on a regular or periodic basis? That could be, hey, they're paying the utility bill every month in exchange for you letting them stay there, or they're paying the HOA fees, or they're contributing to something that has to do with the home itself in a financial way. Paying for groceries is not going to get you there. It has to be something that is directly related to the property. If they do contribute in that way, the law here in Florida is going to see them as a tenant, even though, again, they're not formally a tenant based on an agreement between you and them. And so if they are a tenant, you have to give them notice before you can move to evict them. You will have to give a 30-day notice. It has to be specific and have certain language in it based on what's in the Florida statute. And that 30-day notice period has to end at the end of a calendar month. So if you give notice today, which is June 6th, they don't have to leave until the end of July, because we don't have 30 days starting today on June 6th until the end of this calendar month. So make sure you get that notice out as soon as you even think that you may want them out. If they still don't leave after that notice period expires, at that point you would file an eviction. Now, if they do not pay any monetary amount at all in relation to the property itself, they are going to be seen as a squatter. And in that case, you don't have to give them any notice at all. You can immediately file a lawsuit to get them out. In this case, the lawsuit is going to be called an unlawful detainer instead of an eviction. It's going to run very similarly to how an eviction runs, but obviously the burden of proof and what you have to prove is going to be different. Now, if this person is not a relative of yours, you may be able to use the new squatters law that was passed here in Florida by Governor DeSantis. That allows you to simply call the police, fill out a form, sign it, and the police will remove the person at that point in time. However, if the person living with you says, we were in a long-term romantic relationship, I helped improve the property, we agreed because we have kids together that if I pay for the groceries and the kids, she'll pay for the house. If anything like that comes up, it is likely that the authorities are going to say, we're not getting involved. This sounds like a civil issue. You need to go to court. The squatter law was intended to address more kind of black and white, clear-cut situations. You go on vacation and some homeless person sets up shop in your house, that sort of thing.
Wow, how many situations are there? We cannot evict our guest on our own. We need legal advice. That's I would highly recommend. Hopefully you are not in that situation, but if you know anybody in that situation not talking about it, then have them seek legal advice, because these things can get ugly and it's very complicated. We as consumers, we don't know the regular laws because there's quarter laws, there's tenants who sign lease laws, there's tenants who are automatic tenants laws. So there's too many variations. We should not even touch it. Let's get some legal help should we be in that situation. Things are complicated. When your guest overstays and now is acting like a tenant, treating you like you are a nobody and they own the house, this could affect you physically, financially, and emotionally. Not only does it affect you, but if you have kids, they get affected. If you have parents, they get affected. If you have other people living with you, they get affected. So this is a situation that needs to be addressed as soon as possible. This creates family tension between the kids and the parents, or the parents and their brothers and sisters. You get filled with guilt that, hey, I'm such a nice person, I don't want to kick my cousin out or my niece out, and you hang on to those tension. You pay for the extra food. You pay for the extra utilities because you're out working, and then your niece or your nephew or your cousin is there all day watching TV, having the AC on, using the water, and your cost of living is increasing at the cost of your uninvited guests, or now what we call the legal tenant. I have seen good families break apart because of these situations, because they could not say no to their family. So sometimes we just have to say no. So another thing about tenant laws and tenant rules and regulations, there are no federal rules here, only state rules. In California, it's about 30 days and eviction could take up to 90 days, but different states has different times. Always check with your rules and regulations in your local county and city and see how it applies and how it'll affect you and your eviction of your loved one or your guests. One of the things you could do is, before you allow your cousin or your sister or your friends to stay in there, you can always have something in writing, rules and regulations on which you both agree, and have it signed. Require the guest to acknowledge only a temporary stay. Keep a copy of all the communications and texts and emails that you go back and forth with, and this will help you with their departure dates and should you get into a legal fight or a legal situation. The other things you could do is, if you're in that situation, offer your cousin or the guest to pay for their hotel or an apartment for a month, or for their moving expenses. Offer them a non-profit organization. Help find some organizations which help house people who are looking for temporary housing until they get settled down, or until their life becomes into a better situation than what it is right now. Obviously, your guest is staying there, forcing him or herself to stay there because they have a situation, whether it's financial or emotional or relational, or they're unemployed. So whatever the situation, if you offer them to help without being legally liable, that may be a first thing to do. But if that does not get anywhere, the legal way out is the only way then. As they say, be generous with your hearts, not your house keys. Have you been in this situation, or do you know of anybody in this situation? Drop a comment below, share the situation so we can learn from it. And I highly recommend that you watch this video if you enjoyed watching this one. Thanks for watching. Mike Patel.